So here we are back at our dump truck, and the next thing we need to do is add a hinge to it. A hinge is a fixed point around which two parts can rotate. So we want the front part of this bucket for the dump truck to rotate around the fixed point of this edge. So basically we want it to flip up. Right? So the way that's usually handled is with a hinge. You've seen a hinge probably every day of your life. Every time you open a door, you've seen a hinge. So you're familiar with what they look like. Let me show you how to make it in Tinkercad for the dump truck. So I have a cylinder that I rotated 90 degrees, shrunk it down to be 6 millimeters long and 55 millimeters wide. Now I'm going to bring out a box and make it 55 millimeters wide because that's how wide our dump truck is, and just 2 millimeters tall. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to drag it up 4 millimeters. And I'm going to change the colors so that we can more easily see what's going on. So I have a blue plate and a purple plate. These are two parts that will be glued to the dump truck. So the blue plate is going to be glued to the yellow part of the dump truck, and the purple plate is going to be glued to the bottom of the red part of the dump truck here. We need to make it so that these two plates can revolve around a single pin. The pin I'm going to bring out as a cylinder, and I'm going to use a length of wire from a wire coat hanger, which is about 3 millimeters in diameter. And so that's why I have a 6 millimeter diameter hinge element, because having a diameter that is about twice of what you're going to put a hole in it is a good idea. So I have a 3 millimeter wire is going to put a 3 millimeter hole in the hinge, and so the thing that it's putting a hole in, it better be at least twice as big. So I'm going to align these, the pin and the hinge element, so that it's all centered. Okay, I don't want to make a hole yet. Let me change the color of the pin so that we can tell what it looks like. Temporarily going to group it though, so that all stays in position. And then I'm going to nudge that until it's lined up with the side of the plates, and then nudge it in so that it's halfway into the hinge element. So you see how the plate there is halfway into this cylinder on its side? That's what we want. Okay, so I have that placed, and now I'm going to ungroup from the pin there, and I'm going to need 3 elements of that hinge. It's going to wind up being 55 millimeters long, minus 2 millimeters for the gap between each hinge element. And I have 3 hinge elements. So 17.6. So it's about 17 and a half. I'll change my snap grid to 0.5 and shrink that down to be 17.5. Duplicate it. Shift drag. Then duplicate it again. Get that third one lined up with that side. The first one should already be lined up with the other side. And then we have this one in the middle that just sort of we just sort of need to center it. All right, so we have those 3 hinge elements. Now I'm going to make the center one longer. If you're going to make any of them longer, the center one is the one to do, because it has just the one. It's going to rely on just the one. That plate is going to be connected to just that one hinge element. So here, I'm going to change the color of the center element to be yellow. And we're going to merge 2 of these elements with the bottom plate, and then the center yellow element here with the purple plate. So I'm going to select the 2 orange elements and the blue plate, group them, make it blue. Then I'm going to select the yellow element in the middle and the purple plates and group that. Now we see we have a problem here. See, the blue and the yellow are overlapping here at the hinge element. And when these are solid in real life, you can't have those 2 things overlap. They won't fit. So we're going to ungroup the elements from the plates, select those 3 elements, duplicate them, and move them out of the way. Now I'm going to do a uniform scale from the center. And I don't need to make it a whole lot bigger, just a little bit bigger. So that's probably too much. All right. That's good. And go back and merge the way those were supposed to be. So the 2 orange elements are going to merge with the blue bottom element, or the blue bottom plate. Yellow center element is going to merge with the top purple plate. And then I'm going to bring these 3 duplicated and enlarged elements into overlap. Use the pin for reference and nudge the larger elements into place. Like so. Now we're going to do the inverse grouping We're going to do inverse of what we did before. So instead of merging the center element, we're going to merge those orange elements with the purple plate and the center yellow element with the blue plate. But we're going to turn them into holes first. So the ones on the sides are going to be grouped with the top plate, and the one in the middle is going to be grouped with the bottom plate. So in the end, this is what you're going for. If I were to move this out of the way, you can see that there are now cutouts to make room for the hinge elements on the other plate. So let me undo that move. And now we need to make holes for the pin. So I'm going to duplicate the pin, turn it into a hole, and group it with one of the two plates. Then I'm going to duplicate the pin again, turn it into a hole, and group it with the other plate. Let's confirm that we got the holes we wanted. And sure enough, I have everything in place. Undo those two moves. And there I have a hinge. Now I'm going to move it into place. Move the bucket up a little bit. Temporarily group that. Move the hinge in. And line it up, nudge it into place. Like so. And move the bucket too. And there we have it. Dump truck has a hinge and it's now articulated, which means it can move. It has moving parts. Okay, so next up will be the wheels and axles.